Why the U.S. is sending more troops despite claiming progress with Iran. 1. The war is still very much active. Despite Trump's declarations of victory, the U.S. and Israel continued airstrikes across Iran on Tuesday, day 25 of the war, with the Iranian Red Crescent reporting more than 82,000 civilian buildings hit. Israel and Gulf Arab states also suffered waves of rockets and drones fired by a defiant Tehran. There is no ceasefire in effect. The victory rhetoric does not match ground-level reality. 2. Maximum optionality, the Pentagon's standard strategy. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt stated, "It's the job of the Pentagon to make preparations in order to give the commander-in-chief maximum optionality. It does not mean the president has made a decision." In plain terms, sending troops doesn't mean using them, it means having them ready. Military doctrine requires positioning assets before they're needed, not after. 3. Talks are fragile and unverified. Iran denies them. The diplomatic situation is anything but settled. While Trump described very strong talks with major points of agreement, Iranian state media, citing an unnamed senior security official, disputed Trump's account, saying direct or indirect talks have not taken place between Washington and Tehran. With such a wide gap between the two sides' narratives, the military isn't standing down on the basis of unconfirmed diplomacy. An Iranian military spokesperson even mocked U.S. ceasefire attempts, insisting the Americans were only negotiating with themselves, calling Trump's overtures an attempt to dress up your defeat as an agreement. 4. The Strait of Hormuz crisis demands a military solution. Iran's de facto blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has caused a massive spike in global oil prices and a shortage of cooking gas in Asian countries. The head of the International Energy Agency warned the situation is very severe, worse than the two energy crises of the 1970s and the fallout of Ukraine combined. Reopening the strait may ultimately require a physical naval and amphibious presence, not just diplomacy. 5. Kharg Island, a potential ground operation. Among options officials have weighed privately is capturing Kharg Island, an economic lifeline for Tehran that handles roughly 90% of Iran's crude exports. White House officials believe taking it would totally bankrupt Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and could potentially lead to a swift end to the war. Such an operation would require precisely the kind of amphibious force now being deployed, major expeditionary units designed for seaborne assault. These are not peacekeeping or logistics units, they are strike forces. 6. Securing Iran's enriched uranium. A separate and potentially riskier ground operation is being considered to seize Iran's enriched uranium, believed to be buried underneath rubble left behind after the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear sites. Any mission to retrieve the buried uranium would be incredibly dangerous. Preventing Iran from reconstituting a nuclear weapon is a core stated goal, and that may require boots on the ground regardless of any deal. 7. The 82nd Airborne and Marine units are specifically designed for rapid entry. The deployment includes Major General Brandon Tegmeyer, commander of the 82nd Airborne Division, along with division staff and a battalion acting as the immediate response force, capable of deploying anywhere in the world within 18 hours. Marine Expeditionary Units are amphibious assault forces that operate from the sea, often the first to arrive at a conflict site, consisting of ground combat units with infantry troops, armed vehicles, artillery, helicopters, and attack jets. These are not peacekeeping or logistics units, they are strike forces. 8. Leverage in negotiations. Troop deployments can be a bargaining tool themselves. Some analysts believe the deployments could be a signal to Iran that we mean business when we say we're considering boots on the ground, and are intended to alter Iran's decision-making calculus in negotiations. In Trump's deal-making style, military escalation and diplomatic outreach often run simultaneously, each reinforcing the other. 9. Saudi Arabia is pushing for continuation. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has reportedly been urging Trump to continue the war, citing this as a historic opportunity to reshape the Middle East. Saudi officials denied the report, saying the kingdom has always supported a peaceful resolution. With a key regional ally reportedly lobbying for continued pressure, de-escalation faces headwinds even among U.S. partners. 10. Iran believes it is winning too. Iran believes it is winning in its form of asymmetric warfare, according to analysts and former U.S. officials. The Israeli military also wants to keep fighting Iran for several more weeks to achieve its war aims. When both sides believe they have the upper hand, a ceasefire is inherently unstable, making military positioning essential. The bottom line: Trump's victory claims and talk of a deal are largely rhetorical positioning, a classic Trump negotiating tactic of declaring success while keeping maximum pressure on the table. The troop deployments reflect the reality that the war continues, a ground operation remains firmly on the table, and the U.S. needs physical leverage to either force Iran's hand in negotiations or execute military objectives if talks collapse.